In this tutorial, we will be looking at how to create associations from scratch. First off, what is an association? An association is something that Oxshell uses to launch another application while giving it a file or some other parameters. And so it would launch an application with a specific goal. In our case, in most cases, we would want to launch an emulator, giving it a ROM to directly launch without having to go through that emulator's menu. To start us off, we will go over to the settings menu, and then in the settings menu, we will go down to the associations menu. In here, we can take a look inside add association to home, and we will see that we have no associations created. Now, what we can do is to create a new association in order to add it to the home menu. The first thing we will want to fill out is the display name. The display name is the name that will be shown for that association when it shows up on the home menu. In my case, I'm going to start off by creating a Game Boy Advance association for the application MyBoy. And to name it, I will say this is GBA. This is entirely for me. It does not matter what name you give it, is the name that you want to see, that you want to show up on the menu. It makes no difference what you put. Then we have the package name. You can either manually enter the package name if you know it, or you can pick from this list of applications that are installed on your system so that it would autofill the package name for you. In this case, I will scroll down to MyBoy, and once I press on it, it will autofill the package name for that application. Then once we have done that, you will see that this drop-down menu has popped up. That is because the class name is dependent on the application that is chosen. And again, over here, you have the option of manually inputting the class name if you know it, or you can pick from this drop-down of classes. And so I will pick the emulator activity of MyBoy because that is the activity that we want launched. It is the page or the screen that does the emulation for the ROMs. And then we have to pick an intent action. You can either type it in manually again, or you can pick from a list of actions. These ones are Android specific. They're built into the Android system. So these aren't, not every application will use every single one of these actions. They might not even use any at all. So depending on which application you are using, for MyBoy specifically, it uses the action default, or which also is the action view intent action to tell it that a ROM is being given to it. And then we have the associated extensions field. In this one, you can input any number of comma-separated extensions. These are the file extensions, the ROMs, or whatever file that you're taking, what extension they end with, the dot something 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 at the end. In my case, it's .gba. So I will put in GBA. You can include the dot. You can not include the dot. It's up to you. And if you have more extensions that you want to filter by, you would then put a comma and then put whatever else you want to extensions you want to include. You can include as many as you want, as long as you just keep a comma between them. For me, I'm just putting in the one, so it's just GBA. Next, we have the data that will be sent over to this association. In my case, MyBoy takes it takes data. There's data, there's extras, but they're both data that is received by the association. But for MyBoy, it just takes the initial data. And in our case, it takes the absolute path of the ROM that is being used, that is selected. So this will tell. So when the association is added to the home menu, it will you will pick out from a you'll pick out a folder that has your ROMs, and so in the home menu, it will list out those ROMs for that association. And when you press on one of them, it will give that ROM's absolute path to the emulator in this slot. You depending on the emulator, it might be through this data entry, or it might be through somewhere in the extras. The extras, they are comma separated pairs, meaning you will have a value name, comma, its value, and then that's a pair. And then you can have any number of those. So you'll always have an even number of values in this extras input. So let's say that some emulator takes boot path as a value name, and its value that it's meant to have is the absolute path. So then we would then put comma and then type out absolute path. And so this shows that you can put anything that's here, URI, absolute path, file name with extension, file name without extension, where URI is the aux shell's file provider. Absolute path is literally just the path as a string to the ROM, the full path. File name with extension is just the file name without the full path, but with the extension. And the file name without extension is just the file name without the path, without the extension. And you can type these manually into the extras values on the second part of each pair. So you would have boot path, comma, absolute path, and then you can have comma, extra path, comma, URI or something. And you can even provide booleans, so true, false, numbers, 0, 1, 2, floats. You can put things with decimal values. It's entirely up to what you want to put and what the emulator requires. But in our case, this field will be empty for MyBoy. And then this is everything that we need to input for MyBoy for it to work. So then we press create since we're done, and then we can see it's available here under add association to home. And then in the next tutorial, we will see how to add this association to the home menu. Thanks for watching.